when I saw it, so he's going to be on tonight.
Plenty of people making plenty of money. Chris Cuomo, it's your show.
Just
have a great
us.
one. Yeah, just
Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. April Fool's is upon us tomorrow. Don't worry. But the joke will not be on us. Not tonight, not ever. 2 ways to avoid foolery and foolishness. Don't take the bait and check for yourself. First, a new shiny bit of foolishness. Trump is open to a 3rd term. Of course he is. Doesn't mean it can happen. It can't. Oh, but Bannon said on your show, I know what he said. He can work on whatever he wants. Don't take the bait. Why? Couple things. When you focus on that nonsense, you not only play into the misperception that Trump somehow is bigger and more powerful than all our institutions, but you take your eye off what could actually happen that is worth getting into a little bit of a fisticuffs about. Okay, for example, my growing concern that Elon Musk hates Social Security. What a wild thing to say. I agree, and I don't want to say it. I'm not a hater, not of Musk, not of his efforts. And I don't want to add any drama to what is already surrounding the guy. But the proof just keeps mounting. I can't ignore it. Not that I needed anything more to make the case than this.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. When you look at the future obligations of Social Security, the actual national debt is like double what people think it is because of the future obligations.
I mean, look, again, I think Elon Musk is a genius. I don't know how he keeps getting things so fundamental, so wrong, unless he wants to, which means he thinks he can play you for a fool like he did Joe Rogan. And look, I didn't expect Rogan to push back on Musk any more than he did with the doctor who told him that the polio vaccine didn't really matter. But Social Security does matter. It's one of the most successful programs in the country's history. 2 out of 3 elderly people are on Social Security. They depend on it every month. 70 million of them depended on it every month. Millions of dependents, disabled. It is the height of poison privilege to look at that need and say, Now, calling it a Ponzi scheme is an opinion, and Elon is entitled to it. But hoping to fool you that a zombie army of 150-year-olds are getting benefits is not an opinion. It's a lie. Then he said Social Security is a major reason for the deficit and debt. You heard it, which is factually impossible. Untrue because it is legally impossible. Why? It's not allowed. It is a pay-as-you-go program. And now, Musk's man at Doge handling Social Security, Antonio Gracias, claims illegal immigrants are reaping major benefits from Social Security. Here's his charge.
These are non-citizens that are getting Social Security numbers. The defaults in the system from Social Security to all of the benefit programs have been set to max inclusion, max pay for these people, and minimum collection. That's what's happening. We found 1.3 million of them already on Medicaid.
It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States.
And we found people here registered to vote. In this population, yes.
And who did vote?
And we found some by sampling that actually did vote, and we have referred them to prosecution at the Homeland Security Investigation Service.
Yeah.
I have no problem with referring people who break the law, and there's no question. If someone's in this country and they're not a citizen, they can't vote in state or federal elections. Now, his name is Gracias, means thank you in Spanish, but in this case, no gracias, no thank you, because what you just heard is not just a simple difference of opinion. It is not kind of true, kind of not. No, it is a gross misinterpretation developed to feed a false narrative, which, in fairness to Gracias, he was nodding his head, but it was Musk giving his BS about the great replacement theory. There is, and now, remember, check for yourself. There is no max inclusion or minimum collection or max benefit setting or button at Social Security. And I'm not nitpicking. This isn't parsing words. It's not semantics. It's not a distinction without a difference, okay? It's just not how Social Security works. The program uses a complex index and algorithm to figure out benefits based on our lifetime of earnings, okay? Every year, illegal immigrants do contribute to Social Security, over $20 billion. But did you know that they receive almost no benefits back? Why? Because they have to pay in to work. Okay? Now, I see this as a scam, okay, of them, but also of who benefits from illegal employment in this country. The employers, right? They get these people at sub-market wages. You know, they have a lot to do with organizing people to come up illegally. Did you know that? And E-Verify or whatever other mechanism. How many cases can you think of an employer getting busted the way we demonize the people coming here for the jobs? Often at their urging, often at their expense. Why? Because money wins. Musk isn't going to target the deep pockets. Those are his people, right? But the illegal immigrants, let's play. Now, do illegal immigrants get benefits? Yes. Who? Which? How many? Those who claim asylum can apply for work authorization while they await their court date. And if DHS grants them a work authorization, they get a Social Security number. Why? They're making them citizens. No, they're tracking work history so they can pay taxes. And they wind up paying in, and a lot of them don't stay or don't collect or aren't here long enough. So we get the benefit of that in the payroll tax. Musk's guy is right. 1 million plus non-citizens are on taxpayer-funded health insurance. Not the same thing as Social Security, but it doesn't matter. That's because the law allows asylum seekers to qualify for Medicaid. Okay? Now, more states have been offering health insurance to illegal immigrants. You don't have to like the policy. It is a political choice. Now, I personally, as a matter of opinion, believe there is something to the idea that America represents a refuge for the huddled masses. I believe the words of the new Colossus that are at the foot of the Statue of Liberty. I don't dismiss them the way Stephen Miller does. I believe in that message. It's what led my family here just a couple of generations ago. That promise, okay? But you don't have to like it. And you don't have to want to continue the policy. That's a political choice. But it's also a choice to twist the reality of the program to fool people into thinking there is gross abuse. Because there is not. It is what I just explained to you. And it's not about some great replacement theory. Okay, that's a boogeyman. And Musk must know better. He's a genius. When you look at voting, Democrats wanted a porous border so they could have an infusion of voters who would reward their leniency with party loyalty. Look, you can believe it. There's just no proof of the great replacement theory. And by the way, check out Latino populations. I mean, there are a lot of different people who come illegally into the country, but let's look at that population. A lot of them don't break left, okay? They're conservative, religious, value-oriented in a way that often they wouldn't cotton to the Democratic Party, in my opinion, but works well for the pod people on the right. But to say that they vote in big numbers is baloney. Now, what they didn't tell you there is some localities allow illegal entrants to vote. Very, very few, but some do. I wonder if that's who they found. No state or federal voting is allowed for illegal immigrants, and it doesn't happen. How do I know? Same way you can. Same way Musk and Mr. Gracias certainly should. You just Google the question, and what's going to pop up? 2016, the Brennan Center for Justice, a real place, analyzed 24 million votes and found just 30 were suspected to be illegal immigrants. That's 0.001% of all votes cast. Let's put aside the fact of why would you want to expose yourself if you're here illegally and go vote when they could catch you? Why would you do that? But putting away the nonsense of the logic, that's the numbers. And if you apply that number to 2024, it means you had 150 illegal immigrants would have voted in the 2024 election. That's our concern? Listen, Elon Musk is a genius. And that's what bothers me. I love the idea of bringing in better minds from the private sector to help make government more efficient, smarter, innovative, to help more people in more ways. But that's what's really troubling is not his antics or his buzzsaw. I don't care about any of this. Let him do him. As long as Trump is fine with it, fine. Put on your cheese hat. Let's see what it does in Wisconsin. It's the BS that he has to know is not true. If what I just called out and corrected were coming from some pod guy or a fool on Twitter, I'd ignore it. But he's so smart and has been invested with so much and has all these geniuses working for the government. And yet he echoes BS and expects you to be fooled by it. He must really think we are fools and that you will be okay with them cutting a fundamental program to America's social fabric. And it's even more frustrating to me when the fix for Social Security is so obvious and right in front of everybody's face and always has been. Raise the cap on taxed income. It's at $174,000 right now. This isn't a novel idea. It's not unconstitutional or illegal. We do it for Medicare. Nobody ever gripes about it. You never hear concerns about that program the way you do with Social Security. Why? It's a boogeyman like the border was and is. And if you want to set off, do an offset for tax benefits for people who don't need Social Security but pay in over $174,000 to $500,000, whatever limit you want to make it, great. Build that in. This isn't complicated. See, for me, just like with immigration, the problem works better for these two poison parties to blame each other and who loves and who doesn't and who cares and who doesn't than actually doing a damn thing to fix it. Because the fix is pretty damn easy. So don't be fooled. Know the facts. Now, that takes me into something that's really in the news today. A guy with a big job in vaccinology resigns and says, I can't work with Bobby Kennedy. He's all about misinformation. Now, turns out that they were going to get rid of him. Why? Because of what he just said. So what does that tell us about the promise of the MAHA movement? Okay, Make America Healthy Again. Dr. Phil McGraw believes in it. Okay, an outspoken supporter of President Trump during the election. Since then, he has joined Trump's border czar on raids. He did a ride along with ICE. We all saw that. Now he's joined the MAHA movement. Okay, Merritt Street Media has a special airing Wednesday on that very topic, and I asked the doctor to come on in and talk to me about it. Dr. Phil, always a pleasure.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, and it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
What did you make of the guy stepping away and saying, I don't believe that when it comes to vaccines, Bobby is serious about transparency and vetting. He just wants to push propaganda. What's been your experience?
Well, my experience is that he's very sincere about this. And I don't think that he's been in the job long enough for anybody to know whether he's sincere or whether he's not. I mean, if the guy's concerned, then he shouldn't be there. If he can't get behind the program, if he has intellectual reservations about it, then I totally respect him feeling like he needs to step away. I have found RFK Jr. to be committed to the science. I have found him to be someone that is going to follow empiricism and, not some cockamamie story or theory. And I think people need to focus on where he is now and what he does now. And I anticipate we're going to see a lot of transparency from him. And if not, he should be called out on it 100%. No question about it.
Accountability is easy. In terms of what they target and what you want to see, fill us in. No pun intended.
Well, here's what I want to see. And everybody can fact check this, and I invite them to do so. We have one of the sickest generations of young people of any developed countries. I think we're 33 out of 38 among developed countries right now in terms of the presence of chronic disease in young people. And look, there aren't any Democrat children, there aren't any Republican children, they're just American children. This isn't a political issue for me. And Chris, I don't know enough about politics to discuss it intelligently, so I'm not even going to try. I'm interested in cultural issues. And I think when we look at the presence of chronic diseases among our young people, in the 60s, it was like 2, 3, 4% of young people had chronic diseases. Now, it's like 40%. And this is a serious problem that can be eliminated in one generation if we'll just do a few different things that are totally doable. We need to get kids off their phones and back outside in the fresh air and exercising. We need to start feeding them foods that aren't processed. We need to make sure that the chemicals that are in our foods are the ones that need to be there to keep the foods safe. There are probably 10,000 chemicals in our foods that aren't in the foods in Europe. Foods aren't meant to last forever. They're meant to spoil if you don't eat them. You need to be eating foods that are more natural for our children. And if we do that, I think we'll see this chronic disease epidemic begin to go down. And that gives our kids a chance to have a longer life, a higher quality life. 70% of our young people right now can't qualify for military service, for example. Not that we need 70% in military service, but they don't even qualify. Obesity and diabetes, type 2 diabetes, essential hypertension, all different kinds of chronic diseases that are avoidable. And that's what I'm interested in. And, right now we've got so many of these food companies that were purchased by tobacco companies that are spending more money lobbying our Congress than oil and gas companies.
That's the issue.
So
now
we need to really
now
take a look at that.
Now we're on the same page, Doc. We don't got to look at it because it's very obvious. But whether it's why you leave the DOD alone or why you don't go after the people who employ the illegal entrants or why you are not going to change what happens with America's food, you are butting up against money and power with reach into politics. And what gives you hope that that will be taken on? We have not seen Trump do that. He talked that talk a little bit in 2015. It was one of the things I thought was a good inflection point for him in his original self. But I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet. What gives you hope?
Well, what are we, 50 days, 60 days into this? I think him bringing Bobby Kennedy in, who is very much committed to this. In this episode that you're talking about, the special that I'm doing, I had what are called Maha Moms on, and these are mothers that have been focused on this for a long time. And they're focused on the food, they're focused on the chemicals, they're focused on the medications and the research that's being done. These aren't anti-vaxxer moms. These aren't moms that are looking for some kind of conspiracy theory. They're looking to get their children healthy. And they're motivated, they're intelligent. There are physicians that are involved in trying to do the right thing by these children. And I think they're very serious, and I'm very serious about it. I think we've got a chance to really make a serious difference here. And I've talked to the president about this, and he is very focused on this. I think he's sincere about it. I think he's dedicated to it. And I think he's going to stay the course and do something here. But here's what it takes. I guess the first time I ever heard the term follow the money was back in the Watergate days that you and I remember, and a lot of young people don't even know what we're talking about when we say Watergate. But if you follow the money, you've got these chemical companies that are spending all of this money, and they've got corporate capture. And we've actually got people that benefit that are actually regulators that approve some of the chemicals and some of the medications that are getting approved. Some of the approvers are benefiting if they approve and not if they don't approve. And I'm talking about everything from antibiotics to vaccinations for flu and COVID and those sort of things. But it's more than that. It's just how long did it take to get the red dye taken off the approved list? And we've known about that forever. And all I'm asking people to do is say, it was somebody much more eloquent than I that said, I would rather have questions that I can't answer than answers I can't question. And we've got to have the willingness and the freedom to question the answers that we're all taking for granted. It's just, why do our foods look different than European foods? Why are the colors brighter? Why are they in our foods, our cereals and stuff? Well, because they've got dyes and chemicals in them that they don't have in these other countries. We should be asking ourselves, why is that true? Why do we need that stuff in our food? And why did our children start getting sick in the mid-'80s when they started adding that stuff to our food, whether it's Skittles or these candies and these cooking oils that we use? Those things were originally designed to lubricate tanks during the war. And then we didn't need them for tanks anymore. They started converting them into cooking oil, and we're eating that stuff. And I'm learning every day.
I hear what you're saying, Doc.
Every day that I'm reading this research.
Listen, I think, it's great that you're doing it. I hope people watch this special. It's a great message to be putting out. And I am not a cynic. I am a hopeless optimist. I just believe that you got to believe in the best. But you got to take on the richest, the most powerful to make a difference with this, because that's who's cashing in on it. And we'll see. We're early on it, but we're not too early to ask the question, as you say. Dr. Phil, appreciate you. Always welcome here. Good to see you.
What I want everybody to do is fact check everything you and I are talking about here. Fact check it. Find out if it's true. And if it's not true, kick it out. If what I'm saying is not true, throw it out. But if it is true, follow up. That's all I say.
All right. Scroll back up. I want to get the name of the special right. There it is. Make America Healthy Again, a Dr. Phil's Merit TV special. Be well, Doc. Wednesday, Merit
Chris.
TV. Dr. Phil McGraw, always a pleasure. It's good to be with you. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. The only thing I can tell you is that when you look, is it a huge disparity between our food and the rest of Europe? Depends where you look, but there are definitely differences. Do we think people cashed in on the COVID vaccine? It's said all the time. I have no proof on it, and what Bobby put in his book about Fauci has never been true. So, you take a look for yourself. When we come back, the big money, it's not just regulators. Did you know that members of Congress can trade stocks? Did you know that they can trade stocks even if the companies involved that they're trading in have bills before them? Did you know that? Isn't that insider trading? And if it isn't, why isn't it? I got a guy who's been tracking it in a way it shocked me when I saw it on my phone, so he's on the show tonight. Wait until what he has to tell you.
I'm Blake Berman, and you're listening to NewsNation, news for all America. To find NewsNation on your screen, go to joinnn.com.
There is a lot of feigned outrage on TV, right? Especially people in my position. They pretend sometimes to be indignant. You do not need to fake the funk at all with what we're about to talk about, okay? Here's the question. If you're a member of Congress and you have a bill before you that will benefit a certain company, should you be able to invest in that stock when that legislation is pending? I mean, isn't that an obvious no? I mean, why are members of Congress allowed to trade in stocks at all? And how is it not insider trading if you invest in a company that's benefited by a bill that you have? Now, this would be bothersome enough if it were hypothetical and people were just taking positions on it like, oh, I'm okay with it. It's not hypothetical. How do I know? Quiver Quantitative. Quiver. I've talked to you about them before. This app tracks trades by politicians and their spouses. Why'd I hit that so hard? You'll see. And indexes that activity against legislation they're pushing. That's the key part. So Quiver recently reports that in November, Republican member of Congress Mike McCall disclosed that he traded thousands of dollars worth of stock in a cybersecurity company called Fortinet. And that company, Fortinet, has been lobbying for the passage of a bill called the Pivot Act, which would create a 2-year scholarship for future cybersecurity workers. It's not about the bill, good or bad. It's not what it's about. Then in February, McCall publicly calls for passage of the Pivot Act in a hearing that benefits a company he had just invested in. Quiver also reported that former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had been buying stock in another company that was also lobbying for the Pivot Act called Palo Alto Networks. So I hear this. This smells terrible, right? So we reached out to both, okay? Pelosi didn't respond. Shock. McCall's office did and sent us this statement from his attorney. Congressman McCall did not purchase these stocks, had no advanced knowledge of the purchase. Rather, his wife has assets she solely owns, and a third-party manager made the purchase without her direction. This company, Fortinet, is not Google, okay? It's not something that everybody has in their portfolio. So that statement means that his wife, without his knowledge, just happened to buy a stock that is not a huge, widely shared stock in a company that just happened to be in a bill that's before him right now. I don't know what's worse, not answering our question or answering it like that. You decide. Let's bring in the CEO of Quiver Quantitative, James Kardatsky. Hey, I got to tell you, I like what you do, my young friend.
Thank you.
Now, first of all, let's look at this backwards. What do you make of McCall's statement? Wasn't me, it was my wife, and she's got a third-party guy, so who knew?
Yeah, I think the real issue with the current state of regulation on congressional stock trading is that we really have no way of knowing. Oftentimes when members of Congress are pressed on these specific trades that are made, they'll point to, it was just my wife, it was just a third-party asset manager. I had no knowledge of what was going on. I definitely wasn't trading off of inside information. And they can say that, James, and we really have no way of checking.
Well, but I mean, it's always like that with insider trading. But James, here's the thing. What did you learn about Fortinet in terms of, how many shares trade on a regular basis, how well known it is, and what the likelihood is that somebody would be picking it up as just like one of the basic stocks to have in a portfolio?
Yeah, it definitely is somewhat suspicious. The fact that not only did he purchase these companies, but at the same time, there's legislation moving through a committee that he's a member of, the Homeland Security Committee, that, Fortinet was very heavily lobbying for. And it would obviously very much benefit that stock if that legislation was passed. So there's a lot of these cases where, we might not have like a smoking gun, like, yes, this was definitely insider trading, but there's just so many factors that line up where it becomes very clear that this member of Congress probably had access to inside information. This member of Congress probably has the power to control factors that might be impacting the stock. And we just don't think that should even be a scenario that could happen in the first place.
And again, I'm right that Fortinet is not like Google or Apple, where everybody has it in their portfolio, right?
Not at that size. It is a large cybersecurity company, but you're right that it's definitely not as commonly traded as those companies.
Do you believe that Congress should not be able to trade when it comes, period, or not when the companies that they are actively buying in are in bills before them at the same time that they're buying?
Yeah, personally, my stance is definitely they shouldn't be allowed to trade, period. There's, I think, a lot of ways that the current regulation could be improved that doesn't go all the way to banning trading. But at the same time, I think no matter where you try to compromise, you're still going to end up with situations where there might be these conflicts of interest. There might be inside information. So, I think there's been a lot of proposals that are kind of like, okay, we'll go halfway. We'll say, you just can't trade on companies that are very clearly companies that you could impact. But in my opinion, I think it's better just to ban it outright. I don't think there's really a good reason why members of Congress should have access to trading specific single name tickers.
Yeah, my producer is saying, lawmakers go through ethics reviews of their portfolios. But I got to tell you, I've been around that vetting. I don't know how much manpower is committed to it, and I don't know how extensive the vetting is. What do you know?
Yeah, I know that, first of all, I don't think it's perfect. I think that there's a lot of cases where they're not really digging deep into these trades. And also in the instances, even where there is clear violation of the rule, often it's just a slap on the wrist in terms of the penalty that's given out. We've seen instances where members of Congress disclose trades months or even years after the reporting deadline, and they're hit with a $100, $200 fine. That's nothing for these people. It doesn't really impact their decisions whatsoever. So, yeah, I think there definitely needs to be firmer enforcement of the rules that are actually in place, but really we'd also like to see much firmer rules being put in place just to make sure this doesn't happen at all.
Well, James, you have an open line of communication to me anytime you see anything that you think needs mention. I love what you guys are doing. It is citizen journalism as well as a business proposition that I hope is very profitable for you, because this just stinks to high heaven. Thank you very much for giving us insight into what's going on under our noses.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, James, I'll talk to you again soon, I'm sure. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Why do they even get to trade? I mean, think about that. You got a bill before you? Oh, I didn't know anything about it. Why even have it? You shouldn't be allowed to do it. You want to serve. All right, I got a Republican member of Congress on the show, Ryan Zinke. Okay, talk about serving the country honorably. Special operator, now in Congress, was a federal secretary as well. What does he make of what Quiver is showing us? And what does he make of what's coming in 48 hours or less? Liberation Day. Is it going to liberate you and me in terms of liberating our wallets because we're going to have to pay more for everything when the tariffs kick in? Let's ask a member of Congress. Ooh, look at those pants.
This is Cuomo on NewsNation's audio stream. Available 24/7 on the NewsNation app. Or just say, Alexa, play NewsNation.
Misnomer is when you call somebody something, or you call something that doesn't make sense. Like when you call a fat guy tiny, okay? I'm wondering if it's a misnomer that the president is calling this coming Wednesday Liberation Day, because that's the day that his tariff plan takes effect. And Goldman Sachs is reporting that because of this, there is a 35% chance of a recession within the next year. And a new poll shows that most of you think Trump is focusing too much on tariffs and not enough on lowering prices. Let's discuss. Republican member of Congress Ryan Zinke, Montana, a state that will be greatly affected by the tariffs on Canada. It's good to see you, Congressman. First of all, Quiver Quantitative. This, you guys trading in stocks is a dicey proposition. What you're thinking about it and what he exposed with Pelosi and McCall, not to condemn them, but buying stocks in companies that are going to benefit from bills that are before them currently?
Well, yeah, and two things. One, is there a conflict of interest? And are you voting on a specific stock with information that's not widely available to the public? That's a problem. You look at, for instance, if you're invested in energy, that's a broad spectrum. But if you're invested in a single stock and that stock rises or falls based on your action, then that's a conflict. And so I think the rules have to be tightened up. But a lot of it is whether it's actual or perception. There's a perception of conflict of interest, and that's a problem with Congress. Congress approval rating. We're at 19%. Well earned, but with things like this, with the perception of the public, look, it's not worth the cost of the institution, damage in the institution. And look, again, if there's a stock trade and your action would rise or fall in a specific stock, then I think you need to have a third party where your actions don't dictate a stock rise or fall, especially on single issue stocks.
I mean, look, I'm not condemning anybody. I'm just saying, like you said, the smell test, it's not too good on this one. We'll see what happens. Tariffs. I have no problem with threatening tariffs if it gets America a better deal. But it is hard to make the case economically that once they go into effect, we're not going to feel it on the consumer side here. What do you say to your constituents who are like, this is not great again?
Well, purpose. So for Montana, as you point out, Montana's probably hurt most because 86% of our trade comes from our friends in the North, Canada. Montana has a long relationship and a great relationship with our friends in the North. But tariffs, I'm hoping, are short. But tariffs have to be for a purpose. When you apply tariffs, what is the end result you expect? And I agree that we're vulnerable with critical minerals, that America needs to be able to manufacture without relying on allies or our fickle friends or adversaries. So there's greatness to be independent on energy needs, on critical minerals, on manufacturing, and have the core capability to do so. But tariffs broadly applied, also hurt a lot of people. Give an example. There's a lot of automobile dealers in Montana and across the country that sell foreign products. There's people out there, salesmen, there's repair people, there's all types of things. It's a great product. But you're going to target on those, and it's going to hurt. And what my wish is and my hope is, that, look, I understand that tariffs, we need fair and by trade policies. We need fair agreements between the two, but let's make sure that tariffs are short and they're for a purpose, and that purpose should be narrowly defined.
Congressman, I appreciate it. Let's see if they go into effect. Let's see what it does. You're always welcome here to plead the case for your constituents, and I appreciate you being on it.
Well, Chris, I enjoy it. I enjoy your show. You know what? You investigate, and look, while we may agree or disagree, we're never disagreeable, and I appreciate your points.
Well, I'm not disagreeable because you smacked me around like I had a lettuce. That's why. And I have no desire to get on your bad side. I'll argue with you, but that's where it ends. Take care, Ryan. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for coming on the show. Hey, whenever you want, I'm buying, that's for sure. 4 minutes and 15 seconds coming up. What's right is right. The guy's a SEAL, okay? You twist me up like a pretzel. So, President Joe Biden finally issued a rallying cry to his fellow Dems, writing, "It will take all of us. It's time to get back up." Yeah, the question is, why'd you fall down? A tell-all new book called Fight, The Wildest Battle for the White House chronicles what went on behind the scenes in last year's election. Okay, it's coming. You got to buy it. Did Biden really refuse to endorse Harris at first? Or was he the reason that the Dems were saddled with Harris? The author joins me next. Fight inside the wildest battle for the White House details the drama unfolding behind the scenes in the last year's presidential election. One of the authors, Amy Parnes, joins me now. Congratulations on the book. So why do you want people to read the book? The first sell is the shock that the ticket Walz and Harris felt on election night. What do you know?
Well, we know that they were shocked, completely surprised by the events that unfolded on election night. They thought they were going to win. And, when they were told that they were losing in the final hours and that they had lost, there was complete silence and shock, and they were just dumbfounded by what was happening. But, Chris, I think people should read this book because John and I are journalists in the truest sense. We call balls and strikes. We are not one-sided. This is a book that Democrats can learn from. This is a book that Republicans will enjoy because you can watch the train wreck. Everyone gains from reading this book.
I like the sell. The role of Biden, Amy, there are two schools. One is he was resistant to the change and stayed resistant throughout. The second was he was resistant to the change, and then he said, all right, I'm going out, but it's going to be Harris. And that he didn't want a primary. What did you find out?
Yeah. Well, so we know that there is a secret meeting going on in the final minutes before President Biden drops out at the time. It's at the Naval Observatory. It's in Kamala Harris's pool house there. Her advisors, her closest advisors are gathered, and they're talking about what happens when and if Joe Biden drops out. We find out that he does drop out there, and one of her aides rushes in to be with her. Biden doesn't want to immediately endorse her. He wants to kind of let the moment sink in and then endorse her a couple of days later. And she says, no, I need your endorsement right now.
Do you believe which story do you believe more? That the Pelosi and the party said it has to be Harris, or that Biden wanted to pick who it would be?
I think that Pelosi and the party, they were very squeamish on Harris going in. We have reporting in the book that says he goes, she goes. I think they wanted, a lot of people wanted a primary, but it was a little too late for that.
Yeah, I had a guy trying to convince me that it was Obama and Ron Klain had picked them. Now, what did you find out about Obama's role in this?
Obama was very quiet, obviously, but he was talking to Nancy Pelosi. We found out there were a couple of calls happening within those 24 days. He was, trying to take the pulse of people. He was in listening mode, too. He was talking to his former partner and asking what his plan was. And so he was very involved, but behind the scenes. You didn't see him so much. And in this book, we report what was exactly happening.
Yeah, and I had heard what you have here, that Obama had floated the governor of Michigan and the governor of Maryland. And when I heard that at the time, Whitmer and Westmore, I thought they should have flipped it, or I thought it should have been Shapiro and he. But of course, that's what would have happened if they played out the process. Did you get any particular insight into what made the short primary or the open convention an impossibility?
It was just too short of a time frame. And, President Obama was calling people at the time. He called people like Jim Clyburn to find out where he was. Jim Clyburn knew that call was coming, and he said, okay, I have to quickly get behind Kamala Harris. And that's sort of how that unfolded. And I think President Obama wanted to kind of see how this all unfolded. He didn't want his finger on the pulse, but he also didn't think that Kamala Harris could win.
Do you believe that Democrats hid that Biden wasn't up to running again?
I think every Democrat has a story, and we talk about some of that in here, where they saw President Biden not in the best terms. We detail, for instance, Congressman Swalwell, who was there looking at him. They came face to face at a congressional picnic, and the congressman had to cue Biden as to who he was. This is someone who ran against him in 2020. He's very vocal. He's out there. Someone like President Biden, in Biden's heydays, he would know who he was. He didn't know. We have other details in the book about a makeup artist coming in on his international trips to kind of prep him before meetings with foreign leaders. We have all of these details in the book. It's a really fascinating read.
Well, thank you for the rigor, and thank you for reporting and recording, and now I hope everybody reads it. Amy Parnes, you're always welcome here. Good luck to you and Mr. Allen.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Chris.
All right, good luck with it. Amy Parnes, co-author of the book, Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House. Check it out. We'll be right back.
I'm Ashley Banfield, and you're listening to America's fastest growing cable news network, NewsNation. News for all America.